Hi everybody in Drumland and Musicland. Here's Ruben van Roon Drum Channel with another lesson. And today we start something new. But before that, please like and subscribe. We start with a new topic. And that's a really special topic because that's in the list. We always talk about this instrument and how to be better on this instrument and to get more chops and to get more this and that. But what's for me so important is the next question is, what does other musicians need out of a drummer? We hardly think of that, especially on the YouTube channels. You have to connect with other instruments, and that instruments has a totally other opinion about drums than drummers. What I noticed when I talked to other musicians where I played with on stage, I said, what do you like about my playing? Because of course, as every musician, every drummer, I think completely that I suck. And then I wonder, why do you want to play with me? And the answer is so surprising, fresh and out of the box. Drummers don't think about that. I want to share with you a couple of dead suggestions of other musicians where you can focus on as a drummer. I have 6 topics. It's not in order of importance, but it's a nice one to flow into this new thing. At the end of this video, I will tell you, and that's so surprising, what their number 1 thing was. There are 2 new things. One is that you can donate. That will be so helpful. Every amount is welcome to keep this channel running. There's an email down below where you can go to my PayPal account, and I will really appreciate. What also is great is that I have a website now, rubenvanroon.nl. If you want to be one-on-one on Zoom, it is possible now. You can go to the drum lessons section or the music section, but you can also go to the mind section, and that's more about the inner and to be that humble, nice person people want to work with. I can also help you with study schedules, with your discipline. I have a lot of experience because I was a head teacher on the Conservatory of Amsterdam for 20 years. Now we continue with the lesson. Groove, pocket. Okay, that's such an abstract word. I love to play with a drummer who has a nice pocket, who has a nice groove. Okay, can you give some examples? And of course, they always come with the same names. Steve Gadd, Steve Jordan, Questlove, Ed Green, John Robinson, Jeff Porcaro, James Gadson, Rick Marotta. What is a nice pocket? Because it's just a word. Nobody can describe then what is a groove. Well, first of all, and that's so important for drummers, is that a groove is connecting with other musicians. But what do we do at drum lessons? We always play with only drums, no other instrument. And for me that's so surprising. Every time I teach with students, I sit behind a grand piano or behind a bass. I cannot play the bass so well, but only play an E string like 8 notes or dun, 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 dun. That is so helpful to learn drummers and to listen as a teacher so well. How is he functioning in connecting with other musicians? That's the most important thing. Making music is always on number 1. We want to make music, we want to connect, and that's the most important thing. And what is a groove? Well, groove, you're born with a kind of personal feel, and that's really nice. Every drummer has their personal signature, their personal feel. So, is it consistent? You know, can you repeat every bar that same feel at the same place with the same sound? And then you get a groove. So what happens between that bar, it's personal. Where you place the snare, where you place the bass, where you place the hi-hat. But you have to be so consistent in that the next bar is the same. And when you play a fill, of course, and you come back to the groove, it's the same consistency. And all the great drummers who played in the 80s in the studio, they have that perfect consistency. And that's talent. But you can train, you can study on it, if you focus on it. So it's a combination about consistency and sound. So let's focus on sound first. Sound, there is so important thing in music, what we totally ignore as drummers. Every other instrument is involved with this next topic. Drummers don't think about it. But if you see Steve Jordan's DVD, his instructional video, he talks about it. Whoa! What does he say? Well, I play timpani in orchestras, so I know everything about note length. He plays bass guitar. If you know the band with Keith Richards and Chuck Berry, it's amazing. With bass guitar, you are busy with long and short notes. Every other instrument, you are busy with long and short notes. With drumming, you are busy with long and short notes, but you don't hear them. That's the big difference. You have to think about them. You have to imagine. You have to sing so that you know what's the difference between long and short notes. How long does a short note has to sound? That's with timpani very important. When you play it, you have to mute it. You know, you have to be busy with how long does my note is sounding. That's how I get my timing, to think about boo, ba, boo, boo, ba. When you hear a horn player playing, they can play the same notes, ba, doo, doo, ba, or pa, doo, boo, ba. That's such a big difference. With drumming, it's the same. So for every music style, you have a different approach about note length. So when you have to play the staccato music, I say it the staccato, that's a classical term, that's short, everything's short. So that's about dance music, like funk, like soul, like jazz. You have to play very short. When you have the more open music, like Americana or pop music or rock music, that's more heavy. Then you think of long notes. But what I hear so much is drummers who start to play a groove in the short, the staccato music style, and they play long notes. And then it don't groove. And the opposite, again, it don't groove. So get your focus on long and short notes. It's a very complicated story. I will demonstrate right now. But did you hit the subscribe button already? What do you think about long notes and short notes? Please leave a comment. For me, the big difference in your technical skills is when you play the staccato music styles, the short music styles, you think up. And when you play, you know, the legato music styles, then you play down. So in classical music, you have two terms, staccato and legato. Staccato is and legato is the short music styles like funk, pop, R&B and jazz, you really have to be able to play up. As you know, we have 4 strokes, and that's really nice in this topic. They divided the hand stroke and the foot stroke in 4 motions. And then you have all the motions covering all this technique. The first stroke is the up. So you go from up to up. And the second stroke is down. That's a really important one. I always look at my students how their downstroke is, especially in the backbeat on the snare, their left hand or right hand. When you play a downstroke, you come from up to down. But you have to be really 1 centimeter above your head when you keep it still. When I see drummers play like this is their downstroke, that's almost an upstroke. And then they want to play ghost notes or something. They have to be in their groove, going from this to this. Then your groove gonna not really working well. So you have to prepare here already to get the flow going. The downstroke, so important. Can you play a downstroke, relax, and you end 1 or 2 centimeters above your drum set? Okay, then you have another note that's so important. Everybody forgets about that note, almost all the drummers, because they want to bang the drums loud. It's the tap. That's down, down. That's so hard to do. And then you have, for the staccato music style, the most important stroke. That's the upstroke. You go from down to up. So what you can practice is down, up. And you see that I play a lot of wrist motion in this one. And that's my philosophy. If you want to make sound and really get your own identity, you have to be a wrist player also. So it's all about this. Fingers can be a part of it. Maybe if you are more a rock player and loud, arms can be a part of it. But the main focus is your wrist, like this. So that are the 4 strokes. Keep that in mind. The next thing, so important in the consistency thing, is the sound. Is it consistent what you do? What's so important, what I always do with my students, and you can see it, that my main hitting target thing in my snare drum is here at the center. For me, it's a little bit right of the center. You see, actually, this is the spot on my ambassador where the drum head is a little bit gone. But with some students, you see that that circle is like this, you know, especially when you go to practice rooms, rehearsal places. Then you see the snare drum is wide and the drum head is off and a really big target. So what I do with my students, I always like a dartboard. They have to draw a circle and every hit has to be in the center of the snare for your best sound. And that has to be consistent. When I play the backbeat here on my snare, I get overtones. I see a lot of guys playing on different places. That sounds so hectic and it's so rumbling and everything that the groove, it's against the groove. You hear that? You have to hear really. So what I do with my backbeat now, I play actually every time a downstroke, but you have this problem always, you know. You are cross-sticked. So you have to be able to play the downstroke really. And you... So you combine actually the downstroke with a little bit the upstroke, that you put it really snappy, really short note. These strokes are also for your feet. So when I play now, I have no camera at my feet. But when I do it, I do this, you know. The bass drum is another topic. I will go into that on a later notice on another lesson. But the sound is short, but you can think long in your head. Dong. The same with the hi-hat. And it's really nice when you are jazz educated, as I was, because the main focus is on the right cymbal. You learn that you have to really play up, because when you play down, your cymbal is going to make a tone, only undertones, you know. So you really have to play light on the cymbal, and that's really like... Especially where you have such a dark right as this one. When I play down, you hear this. That's awful, but now I play up. So that upstroke is so important for all your... It's really light, you know, up. So you have to focus on that up playing, and you have to be consistent. And how do you train that consistency? You can train it. Record yourself, that you listen, all right, is every measure the same as the measure before? Is it on the same place? Nowadays you can record in Logic and you can look a little bit at it. Don't go too deep into that because you're human and not a computer. But you can see what's happening. And when, for me, when I play a fill, man, the next measure after the fill, I'm completely gone out of the groove. Always. I have to adjust, always. That's such a terrible thing. Be consistent. And then you have that great tip of Mr. John Robinson of his amazing DVD, where he says, okay, you can play a basic beat. And I always put my bass drum on the beat, really on the beat, and my snare drum a little behind. Well, I'm a little bit different in that. I play my bass drum on the beat and my snare drum a little bit for my mind up front, because when I don't do it, I'm so behind. So I have to adjust it a little bit. And that's really there. But the hi-hat is the glue. There is actually where my groove is. And that's really because John Robinson was also a jazz drummer in the beginning. You learn that of that jazz way of playing, that your cymbal is your groove, man. So your hi-hat, it has to be there. And you have to listen to the dynamics. That's the next topic, but for this time you have to make a mix, like in a studio, you know. So my hi-hat is always very soft, not... So the beginners, you hear drums always, because it's their right hand, their strong hand, when they play a basic beat, you always hear... this, the rest is not trained. But with a lot of drummers, I still hear it. Listen to the balance of your three elements. And I always focusing on my snare. Okay, there's one very important side note that's really nice. From all your loving subscribers, I'm so thankful for that. I get a lot of reactions from your snare is really sounding great. How do you record it? How do you tune it? All that kind of things. That's a big compliment. Thank you very much. There's a secret, and that secret is, I think 75% of the snare sound of a drummer is not in his snare, but in his hand. It's how you approach the snare, how you touch the snare. Do you play it short? Do you play it long? So the right technique is so important for this snare sound. If you play on the Bonham Superphonic snare, you never get the sound of Bonham because it was in his hands. Gadd, Porcaro, all the guys. Actually, it doesn't matter what kind of snare they have. It's so much in their hands. So keep that in mind, that you do this kind of exercises to get the right sound and consistency. Always when you practice groove, practice them ternaire and binaire. Like we say, straight or shuffle. That's an amazing exercise. So and for me, it's so hard to play straight, because when I trained as a jazz drummer, and actually you hear it in all the jazz drummers who played pop music like Gadd and all the guys, you always hear a little of shuffle. Drummers only focusing on freaky things and let me see what I can do, and other musicians want to play music with you. So listening, also a topic. So a groove is very important. So be consistent and think of long and short notes. But the big difference is that Bonham only can play long notes. You really see it also, the drummer of Queen, Roger Taylor, who is a really hero of mine. He plays, and Ringo, they really plays down. Roger Taylor only does this with his backbeat. Observe it, check it out on YouTube, where you see the difference between Rick Marotta and Steve Gadd. Rick Marotta really plays down. That's why he always was asked for the more rock tracks, because it sounded more rock. And Steve Gadd was in the beginning really up. Nowadays, he went on really more long note legato playing. And I think he did that when he played with Clapton and James Taylor, he went to the side of the rock and the Americana and the pop guys. Paul Simon, he really learned to play long also. So he's able to play both ways. Oh, that's so special. But they have, of course, both that talent of feel and groove, what is amazing. But check it out. Start looking at drummers. Why are they great? But why do musicians want to play with them? That's the most important question. Okay, at the end, I promise you, at the end, I will tell you the number one thing musicians put on the list, why they call you as the drummer. And that is he a nice person? Yeah. A lot of times, and I don't say I'm a nice person, but a lot of times, I'm very complicated actually, but a lot of times, that is so important. That you keep your ego at the door and be humble. And I think that is what I love about Steve Gadd nowadays, is his humanity and his humbleness towards all people. All people. You have to be on tour, you have to be in tour buses together, you have to be so much time, you see each other more often than you see your family. So it's so important that you work on your inner. Please like and subscribe this video and leave comments what you think about this topic. That would be so interesting. And you can make a little donation if you want to, out of love. That would be amazing. And I see you next lesson. Thank you.